16 minutes after 8, the greatest player in the PSL of the last 20 years. Who do you think that person, that player, should be? The originators of that poll kick off. Their editor, Richard Maguire. Good evening, Squire. Hello, Richard.
How's it?
Leckerman, how are you doing?
I'm cool. And you?
Leckerman, whose idea was this poll? Because that person deserves a bells, Richard.
Well, my web editor, Ryan Cooper, my number 2, basically, has been wanting to do something along these lines for ages. And it was just a question of getting it developed in that. We actually ran a little dummy one during the World Cup, which didn't make a noise, I think, because we know local is local. We all love our PSL football. And then we just spent many hours debating and arguing in the office as to who the 32 would be. And then it was a question, it was a draw, like, you know, in the Nedbank Cup or FA Cup. You know, different players got drawn against each other, and then it's a straight knockout. We did seed a few of them. We couldn't have, for instance, Doc Kamala against Kuna in the first round, or Richard Maguire and Roger Fatemba in the first round. But there are some unlucky players who've been drawn against other tough opponents. Chabu Matlanga and Spiwa Shabalala, that's going to be a big battle.
Yeah, now you guys are causing wars around this country in terms of the debates on that one.
Well, Shaba's already tweeting to get support. I don't know if Javas has started tweeting as well. But, yeah, hopefully it catches the imagination and everyone gets involved and the players start getting some votes going among themselves.
Now just explain to the listeners how it's going to work, because first of all, there are two groups.
Yeah.
Why the two groups?
Well, it's a straight knockout, all right? And so it's 32 players, as with a cup competition, which starts with 32, goes down to 16, down to 8. We've broken it into two groups. So in the Group A, the 16 there, the 8 that get the biggest votes will then knock out against each other to get to 4. Likewise in Group B, and then it will cross over, just like you see in a World Cup when it gets to the group phase, from the group phase to the knockout phase, and then you have crossovers from the different groups. So it was just to separate out the two batches of 16, which means those in Group A, for instance, Shaba or Ojo Mabizela, Itukuna, won't come up against the top guys in Group B until later rounds. Those would be guys like, I suppose, Doc Kamala, Brian Beloy, just depending how people vote.
Now, how are people gonna sort of decide when you're rating a goalkeeper against a striker, for instance, like Andre against Zuma?
We debated. There's so many different ways we could do this, and we could run it again in a different way depending on how people respond. We've only got 3 goalkeepers in our final 32 after much debate. So we couldn't fairly match 2 goalies against each other and then one against someone else. So it really just went on the luck of the draw. The other way we could do it in future is choose 4 goalies and have a straight battle out between them, 4 fullbacks, 4 centre-backs. But, you know, this is also, it's about the fun of taking part in the game and that. Fans love to debate and argue, and this is one way people can settle some debates, is by voting, getting their mates to vote, trying to ensure that the guy that they've always punted as the number 1 player gets near the top. You know, I see Doc Kamala's already winning, but I think there's a few other players who are hovering there, and I think it's going to cease over the next few days as different players get their supporters behind them.
How long are you going to run this for?
We're going to run this one for a couple of weeks, and we're going to be tweeting about it, posting on Facebook, writing little featurettes on our website. And then we've got others in the pipeline. I mean, the list is endless. The greatest Bafana players, and we choose 32 and we work it down like that. But we're looking at the feedback already, the comments on our website, and we want to hear feedback from readers if they want to suggest a different way of matching it up. Maybe all 32 strikers and see who's the greatest striker ever. We'll be doing things like that, and we'll also be guided by readers. You know, the list of players that we could match against each other are almost endless, because every soccer fan is a soccer coach, frustrated deep inside, and you know, we could come up with various permutations. The main idea is obviously just for people to have fun and to generate a bit of debate amongst themselves, and it will be also interesting to just see what comes out from the readers. You know, it could also inform some future features in the magazine based on which way the readers voted.
I am going to have endless fun just reading the comments based around the votes that people have come through. And it's going to be entertaining indeed. Now,
some
Richard,
people take it very seriously.
Of course they do. Now, your vote does not count, so you can share your thoughts with us. If there were one player of the last 20 years that you would sort of hold up there on a pedestal,
you know,
just
it's
one.
Difficult. I'll tell you the truth, is my favourite player of the last many years, Ernest Ntawali, isn't there because we've kept it within the PSL period, and he was coming to the end of his career then. But if we had to extend it a bit longer, say a quarter of a century, I would have Ernest there. I have a lot of respect for a player like John Mashwayu. But then how do I put forward John when we've got someone like Dr. Khumalo, who's an absolute living legend, who is one of the biggest household names in South African history ever. You know, so there's some really big players there. I was very upset when the late Thomas Madikaki was drawn against Doctor, because I was pretty close to Thomas, and I was hoping he'd get a bit further. But I thought I can't rig the vote here, so it had to stay that way. Yeah, I'd like to see a final shootout between Shoes and Doc. You know, that would be my choice. It won't necessarily work out that way. And as you say, there's some strikers who've been phenomenal. If you look at Daniel Mwenda's record for Sundowns, he, to some extent, is a little forgotten, but he is a very rare striker in recent South African history. As a guy who got into the double figures in the goals column for many seasons in a row. Nowadays, we see a guy, he hits goals one season and he's gone the next. Mambush was consistent for a number of years, and I'd expect him to get quite a few votes in recognition of that. And his teammate, Roger Futemba, one of the most cultured players we've ever seen in this country. So there's a lot of quality there. And
Richard, fantastic way of dodging the question. Love it. And I just know South Africa, I just know South Africa will have fun with us, and you guys have fun awarding it to Doc Khumalo at the end of this entire process. I just have a feeling.
Yeah, look, if you had to put money, I think it would be fairly safe, but your odds would probably not be fantastic. Probably like 2-1, 2-1 against.
Love it. Love it. Richard, we shall leave it there. Cool. And I'm just looking at my Twitter timeline now. Some very interesting names popping up there. But thank you very much for your time and good luck with it.
Pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Ciao. There we go. Kick-off editor Richard Maguire. Go and check it out on the website. I'm sure you will have loads of fun playing that game. But let's start the conversation right here. I'm not going to put any one player against any other player as they're doing it. I just want to hear from you. Is there one player that you hold up on that pedestal as the best of the last 20 years in the Premier Soccer League? Esmotiani on Twitter saying Dennis Lotter was the best. And then a ton of people just going straight up, Doc Khumalo. Some of the other thoughts coming through. Let me just get to them. Udo, I'm a Sundowns fan, says Sly, but I think Lucky Lechwati is the man, taking from a point of view that he's still playing in the PSL and the trophies he won with Pirates. That means a lot to his career. Well, good point made. If you look at the record set by Pirates in their golden run, my greatest player, after taking part in the quiz, is Roger Fuetumba, says Bongani. Guys, thank you very much for those. Keep them coming in. And I'm going to have to wade through the tweets about Doc Khumalo to get to some other names in or on that list. 011-883-0702, Cape Town, 021-446-0567. 25 minutes after 8.